Do you have managers in your business and you want them desperately to manage your people and also want them to do it the way you want them to do it? I'm Melissa Franks, your host of the Opt-in podcast, and here we talk about how to go from surviving to thriving in business. Today, we are talking about letting managers manage, how owners can cascade feedback without losing control. Now, listen, last week we talked about managing up. So your people got the inside scoop and the framework for how to manage up effectively. Now, depending on the size of your organization, this is likely from individual contributors to that middle management layer. The middle managers also can follow the same framework to communicate with you. It's just in a slightly different way. We covered both of those in the podcast. I promised at the very, very end, if you listen to it, you know, because you're here, that this week we are going to be talking about your role in that overhaul of how the business communicates. The reality is that managing up is just a communication framework. That's all that it is. It's not pushback, it's not resistance, it's not challenging the status quo. It's just developing a new communication muscle that's necessary when the team gets bigger. When you started your business, it was you. And then it was you plus a few. And then all of a sudden it was you plus a team, and you had to have managers and directors and all of these things. And what the reality is when that happens is that you get moved farther and farther away from the work. And as you get farther and farther away from the work, you have less line of sight into what it actually takes to get things done, what the real things are that the team is working on, boots on the ground, the problems they're having and how they're solving it. And you lose your ability to appropriately assess when you ask for something if the team can actually execute it the way and timeline that you want it. Feedback is a part of this entire ecosystem. So what I want to talk today is about how you can provide feedback to the team without causing confusion and chaos, and without you feeling like you've lost control of the business. If feedback doesn't flow through the right layer, what ends up happening is that performance and trust suffer. There is a little bit of ego that plays into this that we'll talk about a little bit. But what I want you to think about when I'm talking about performance and trust suffering is that if you are skipping the people that you entrusted with leading and managing and going right to the source to provide feedback, you're telling them, without telling them, that you can do it better, that you don't trust they're going to communicate it correctly, that you aren't so sure if they're managing the people in the right way. And this trust erosion can permeate the entire organization and really create a culture problem if you're not careful. That's why having this conversation today is so important. And listen, I understand your dilemma perhaps better than anybody. And there's a reason for that. Now, I own my own business and I don't yet have layers of middle management, but I did help grow a business from a very small footprint to hundreds of employees. And when we were very small, there was a handful of us leaders and we knew what everybody was doing. We, in fact, as leaders, were the doers. We were as close to the work as one could get. And now that your business has grown, and as I became a member of the C-suite and we had hundreds of people working for us, the reality is that those of you at the top, the owners and the senior leaders of the company, you're no longer close to the work. You still see problems. You see them through a different lens and at a different velocity and impact. And what's also true is that you want to help and you want to help fast. And it is this crazy point of tension between you're not close to the work, you're not doing the work, and you're seeing opportunities and problems and some other things, and you just want to move. This tension is normal. It's absolutely normal. It's a part of growth. This is not a failure on your part. This is a reality of what business looks like. And we're going to talk through today how to move through that. The first thing that I want to say to you in relation to feedback is that skip level feedback can feel very helpful. This is what I mean. You're the owner of the business and there is a manager below you, and then the manager has employees, and you have seen an opportunity area and you know who actually works on it on the team. You actually know the human that works on it. And you're like, I'm gonna call Stephanie up, and I'm gonna tell Stephanie kind of what I'm seeing and what my feedback is. That makes a lot of sense. You see that you're helping. I'm not gonna slow down my manager. I know that my manager is super overwhelmed. It's gonna be faster. If I explain it, nothing's gonna get lost in the sauce. We don't need to have a meeting. I can just do it, right? So it feels like you're moving fast. It feels that it's clearer and cleaner because it's coming from you, literally the horse's mouth. It also gives you a sense of control. Now, pull yourself out of it for a minute because there's some hidden costs related to you making the decision to give skip level feedback. The first one is that you have removed your manager from the loop. They no longer understand what your perspective is and the information you're giving. They're absolutely out of the loop. You are putting a weighted importance on what you're communicating to the employee because it's coming from you. So the employee loses the ability to triage if they need to action it right now, if they need to action it later, the level and severity of the feedback that you're giving. They lose that filter and ability because it's coming directly from you, and there's a lot of importance on the fact that it's you. Another cost is that there is confused priorities. So as I said, it's weighted heavier because it's coming from you. And then the employee's not sure what they're supposed to be doing. Do I stop everything and respond to this feedback? Do I completely course correct and respond to this feedback? Do I throw everything to the wayside and respond to this feedback? Can I just ignore it and deal with it later? Because I know that it's not that big of a deal, but it came from the owner, so maybe it is a big deal. Your managers, when they find out about it, they're going to feel undermined. They're going to feel like you didn't trust them, that you did it on purpose, that you're feeling a certain sort of way about them. Employees are going to get stressed out. There's going to be so much stress with the employees and the managers. Like, everybody's going to be carrying this burden. Like, why did this come? Why did this come now? Like, I thought I was doing a good job, and now all of a sudden I'm not. And you are going to get more frustrated. And the reason that you're going to get more frustrated is because you have provided the feedback. You believe that you are being helpful. You believe potentially you're being encouraging. You believe that you are fast acting. And you're going to get frustrated because what happens is potentially some attitudes and some feelings you didn't want to see or expect, and or nothing getting done. Because while the feedback came in, the manager said that's not a priority, stay the course. And then you're frustrated because the one thing you wanted to have happen didn't happen. And then everybody's unhappy. Impact a culture, and not in a good way. What this feedback loop does when you do skip level feedback in this way is that it breaks things down in the business. And because you are accustomed to just providing feedback where it needs to go, it's difficult to label, name, and problem solve what's happening. And so this creates a breakdown in the business, and it's a breakdown that nobody wants to name or label or talk about. So the reality is, what's actually happening is when there is skip level feedback, managers can't manage what they can't see. So you've taken them out of the loop, so they can't help achieve whatever goal or objective you were trying to achieve by giving the feedback. Employees can't prioritize conflicting input. Their managers are telling them one thing and you're telling them another. Employees don't know what to do. They feel like they are stuck in between mom and dad. They don't know how to mediate. They don't know how to problem solve. And often they end up not doing anything for fear of doing the wrong thing. And then, what ends up happening is that you, the owner, you end up blaming performance instead of the system. So what you end up concluding is that you have poor performers. What you end up concluding is that there are skill gaps. What you end up concluding is that the managers aren't managing and the people aren't doing, and they all need to be replaced. There is a significant cost to skip level feedback when there is not a system and process for how it should be managed. The reality is that when you're in a circumstance where Managers can't manage what they can see, employees can't prioritize conflicting conflict, and you're blaming performance instead of the system. What's actually happening is that you have an operating model problem. You do not have a people problem. You think you do. You don't. It's an operating model problem. I want to give an example because we have a lot of clients where social media is how they sell, it's how they prospect, it's how they do a lot of things. And one of the first things that owners want to do is delegate social media management. Most of them, there's a very few that love it and it's a thing and they want to do it, and they're in our creative spaces, but most of them, like the first person I'm going to hire is a social media manager. And they get them in and then they ask somebody else to manage the social media manager because that's how far removed. I don't want to think about social channels. I just want things to happen. And what ends up happening, because the manager is no longer the owner is no longer doing it. They've given it to an employee and there's a manager in between, is that as the owner starts to see social media posts come through, they start to see drafts of things, they start to get feedback asked for them, all of a sudden they're like, no, I don't like this. I don't like the colors. I don't like the format. That copy's wrong. This is bad. And what they do is they just go right to the social media manager. Rewrite this copy. Change those colors. Edit this video. Take that out, right? All of this feedback is going directly to the social media manager. The manager is bypassed. The employee starts to feel pressure. The more pressure the employee feels, the more mistakes they're going to make. Their work is going to slow down. Quality is going to suffer. And the reason for that is because the manager, who is unaware of the feedback that is happening, is giving them express direction and timelines. This is our plan. This is the timelines. You need to get it done. So they're getting pressure from the manager to do one thing. They're getting pressure from you to do something else. And they're failing across the board. You end up frustrated because you feel unheard. And we had a client that this is exactly what was happening. There was, we were testing a bunch of social media tactics and things, and one of them was leveraging AI. And the owner had been very far removed from what was happening in the social media space. We asked one time, do you mind if we play around with AI? Owner said, sure, go right ahead. I don't care. And the social media manager did what they needed to do. The manager reviewed things. In fact, the whole team kind of edited and looked at things. The published post went out, and then the owner freaked out. And the owner communicated directly to the social media person to take it down. And what ended up happening is that the manager was completely cut out of the entire conversation. And so what the manager was unable to do was understand why the feedback was given, so that we could course correct or manage the feedback. We were unable to learn to go forward. And what ended up happening is that 2 weeks worth of deliverables were delayed because of the entire spin that had happened surrounding that one post that went out. And the realization wasn't, the employee wasn't failing. The employee didn't do anything wrong. The employee just really, really struggled to understand what the right thing to do was, because the manager was saying, go for it and play around with AI, and the owner freaked out. And in this case, it wasn't just the one post that had to come down. There was an entire strategy to leverage AI across a month's worth of content calendars. So then the social media manager didn't know if she needed to scrap the whole thing and start over or keep using it. And this went on and on and on and on. Sometimes the AI things were fine and sometimes it was a disaster. And because the manager had been taken out of the loop, nobody really knew what to do. The manager was frustrated. The social media manager was frustrated. And what actually happened is we posted less because nobody really knew what to do. So that cyclical example created frustration across the board. There was decrease in productivity. There was confusion out in the marketplace because we were putting stuff up and taking stuff down and putting stuff up and taking stuff down. It was like Jekyll and Hyde that was going on. Nobody ended up having the result that they wanted. The manager was unhappy with what was going on. The social media manager was unhappy with what was going on. And the owner was unhappy with what was going on. And kind of everybody threw up their hands and said, maybe we shouldn't post anything, which was exactly the wrong choice because that's how they were making sales. So what should have happened instead is that there should have been cascading feedback. There should have been intentional feedback. And so that's what I want to talk to you about right now, is this is how feedback should occur. And I want to say, before I share this is not finite. What I mean by that is that there are going to be things where it cuts to the chase if you give the feedback to the manager and the employee at the same time. You get everybody on a call and you're like, I want to walk through this thing and I want to give feedback about the work. Okay? So when you don't want to follow this cascade approach, then the next right thing to do is have everybody in the conversation. So the new operating rules, instead of you going from you to the doer, bypassing the manager, is that you speak with the manager. You communicate the feedback, you include intent, you ensure the manager understands this is the feedback, this is why you're getting the feedback, this is the actions I expect to have taken, this is what I want to see different, better, etc. It allows you to have a conversation. It allows the manager to also say, what's the priority here? Do you want us to stop doing this so we can go and do that? It helps them be better managers. Then the manager talks to the employee. The manager is able to take the feedback that you gave and the intent that you shared and give the employee context and set priority. Okay? That's how it cascades. And if you look at this, it goes from high-level concept to tactical execution. You are having the conversation that's high-level and strategic. The manager is having the conversation with the employee, which is operational and execution-based. And then when it needs to go in the inverse, what happens is that the employee talks to the manager, and the employee is communicating about capacity and making recommendations. This is managing up. And then the manager talks to you, and that conversation looks a lot like they're advocating and they're ensuring alignment. The manager has the most difficult job in this entire equation, because when they are starting with you and then going down to the employee, it's their responsibility to take something that is visionary and strategic in nature and being able to digest it and communicate in an executable way. And when the employee is communicating to them, they're taking something that is execution-based and task level, and they are needing to bring it back up and communicate to you and to ensure alignment and to advocate for their position. This management role is the hardest job in the company because they have to be two different things depending on the audience. When this works well, everyone has visibility. When this works well, accountability is clear. When this works well, decision making improves. Now, this does not mean that you disappear. This does not mean that you don't talk to your employees anymore. This does not mean that you're banned from giving feedback. I am not saying that. What we're trying to do is, as your team expands, your responsibility is to manage the managers and your manager's responsibility is to manage the doers. And the hierarchy is there for a reason. You're farther away from the actual work. It's just reality. You could never manage 50 people, so don't try. Those of you that do know that it's a bad idea. That's why management is there. There is a reason that large corporations have these complicated organizational structures. It's all based around decision-making and communication frameworks. There's a whole bunch of skill and other things in there, but at the end of the day, a CEO cannot individually manage 10,000 people. It's not possible. So stop trying to be a hero. You're the most important person. You set the vision. You set the strategic direction. For many of you, you're the face of the company. You're not disappearing. You're empowering the people that you hired to do their job with excellence. So what that looks like for you is that you are going to be shifting away from directives and you're going to start asking better questions. So when you're providing feedback, when you're having a conversation with the managers, some of the things that you should start asking is what else is on their plate? What are the other bits and pieces that they're working on? Let me understand what's going on so I can get a better idea of why the quality is suffering. Another question that you should ask is, what would you need to move to make this happen? If I want this thing done by Friday, what has to stop or get delayed in order to make that so? This allows you to understand trade-offs and to make an informed decision about what the priority is. And most importantly, this is the most important question. What is your recommendation? Ask them. They're closer to the work. They truly know what's going on. They're talking to their peers and they know where competing priorities are sitting out there across the value chain. Ask them what they recommend. You may not agree. Ultimately, you may override them. Give them the opportunity to share their perspective. You might be surprised at what you hear. Now, practical terms, friends. There are some things that if you're bought into this and you're like, I get it and I see it's going to be a change for me, but I also understand the value of this and that I want a bigger team and I want to be able to delegate and trust my team. And so, yes, I've got to change some things. So here's some things that you should probably start changing right away. Stop sending direct DMs with feedback. Stop sending direct texts with feedback. Stop calling your employees, the ones at the bottom, and saying, hey, do you have a minute? I want to talk about something. Stop providing side comments without context. And to the best of your ability, stop making last-minute priority changes. When you do all of these things, they break trust. You are absolutely well-intentioned. I know that you are. And at the same time, people are losing trust. They think that you don't trust them, and therefore they do not trust you. Your job has shifted. The more people you've added, the more your role has changed. You're no longer in execution. You're no longer a part of the team that's doing the doing. Your job is visionary. Your job is seeing overall how the system can be designed, how all of the functions are working in cohesion, how you want customer experience to feel and be, how you want sales to function, how you want the operating rhythms of the business to go. You're not sitting down, hands on a keyboard, typing out the standard operating procedure. You're not in the meeting room with a whiteboard in front of you building the map. You're providing the vision of this is how I want this to be. This is what I want the customer experience to be. This is what I want people to feel and touch and be inside of our social media accounts. You're not making it happen. You're charting the course. And if you don't trust your managers to manage, the reality is that the structure is cosmetic. It is not functional. It is your manager's responsibility to take these system designs and grandiose visions that you have and to be able to distill them down into executable pieces of work. You have to trust that they can take what your vision is and bring it to life. If you don't, then you don't really have a business to begin with. Business is hard. Every phase, every growth phase. Getting to that first million, late nights, no weekends, not a vacation in sight, sacrificing all sorts of things. Getting to the first 5 or 10 means that you need to stretch yourself thin, managing people and doing work, thought leadership that you didn't think you had to do, figuring out how to read your P&L, hiring bad employees and having to manage them out. It's hard. And then going from 10 to 20 to 30 to 40, it all requires new things too. I don't subscribe to the philosophy that the bigger your business gets, the less you have to do, that you can actually delegate yourself out of a job. I just don't believe it. I don't see a world in which your business becomes passive income because other people are running it. And so the truth of the matter is that growth requires effort. It just doesn't require the same sort of effort at every level. And as you grow, the business is going to require less effort from you and better communication and information flow. The business begins to grow because of the communication rhythms and the systems in place to be able to make decisions, not because everybody rolls up their sleeves and with sheer grit, determination, and hustle, the results come. Your business has changed in front of you, and this is now an invitation for you to change how you communicate, how you provide coaching and mentorship, how you provide feedback, and most importantly, how you trust the people that you have put in place to manage your business. This isn't a situation where you get one or you get the other and you're going to be frustrated all the time. There is so much freedom in developing communication modalities, methodologies, and frameworks so that the right people are doing the right things at the right time. And that includes the people that you've hired to manage the people doing the doing. I hope that this was helpful to you. I would really encourage you, if you didn't listen to last week's podcast, to go listen to that because it talks about managing up. So it's going to be all of the tactics that I provide to the people that work for you to communicate with you better. When all of that works in harmony and in concert, what you get is a mature organization. You get one that's healthy. You get one that is excited and ready for feedback. You get one that understands how to prioritize and how to escalate, how to make recommendations and come forward with a solution-oriented mindset. This is a maturation stage of the business that is really exciting. It's where you get to continue to step out of the doing and sit in awe of the people that are doing it for you. It's where you can have those small slivers and moments of possibility where you can say, they're as bought in as I am, and this is really something magical. All you need to do is find the way to communicate and encourage and give a little bit of tough love when it's needed so that you can achieve the goals of your business long term. I hope this was helpful to you. Until next time, friends, please know that you are wise and you are strong and you are capable, and I believe in you.